Hi guys and girls, Emma again. Welcome back to the spare room. Over here at the surface plate, we've been marking this out, and this is 2 1/8 inches up and in the centre here, and this line has to be 270 thou below this one. So basically what I've done is mark this with the scribing block and found some tool steel and a piece of 20 thou shim stock and put underneath this and scribe this at the same size, so it shouldn't be far out. That's sort of plenty good enough, I think. The other job is that we need to put mounting holes in there, and maybe we should have thought of this and set this up on centre height when we fly cut this and drill them in the lathe from that side. But what I'm going to do is just set that up at 1/2 inch or 500 thou, scribe this one and this one, and centre punch them and drill them that way, and they'll be plenty good enough. So we got these two marked, and they're 1/2 inch this way, and they're 2.9 apart, which I've just marked with dividers. They're only hold down bolts, so they don't have to be particularly good, they just got to look neat. Now I've got a counterbore that I picked up somewhere many years ago, which is about 290. 290. Oh, sorry, it's 196 thou, the spigot, by 263. So it's probably the first time I've ever used it, or maybe the second. I did buy it for a job, I think. And I've got a 169 drill, which is number 58, I think. Anyway, for hold down bolts, that won't be too bad. That'll give us a nice flat spot on there. The guided counterbore, and this will give us a hold down bolt. So what I'm going to do is just drill them, which is pretty straightforward, and just spot them with these, with the depth, with the height gauge, or the depth set on the drill press, so we get them both the same. So this is where it gets a bit tricky. This casting needs to be mounted this way up on here. I think that's the only place that I can put it and bore it so that the hole's going to be here on centre. So I've marked the back side rather than the front side, following along blindly from MYFORDBOY. There's probably no reason at all why we couldn't mark the front side and line it up, but probably the easiest way to do this is to get the centering scope out. And to be honest, this is probably about the second time ever I've used this in anger. It's a great thing, and what I've done is calibrated it first. I've just set it up to a centre, and it's got an adjustment, so I've set it up this way and this way. If we can turn it over like this, we can check it on the crosshairs this way and this way. So that's pretty well sorted out. We'll wind this into about where it looks like the middle. And we can get it just exactly on centre here with the scope. And it's just a fraction high, so I'm going to give that a tap and just move him a little bit. So check that on the centre, and that's pretty sweet. I'll slip the tailstock off, out of the way, and we're going to check all our bolts again. Just to make sure they're straight, and I'll have a bit of a look at the setup. Just make sure that this is square again. It's pretty jolly nice. We'll have a look. We've got a couple of bolts here with hold down plates to hold this in place, and a piece of glass paper under it so it doesn't move. That's pretty steady there. If we drill this side here, send him and run a drill and a reamer through it, we should be pretty well spot on the money. So I'm pleased with that. I think that's the only way that we can put this casting in this lathe and bore it. It really could probably be almost done in the drill press. I'm reluctant to do it because it's not as accurate or precise, and the drill wanders and things like that, and you end up with some error, and this hole doesn't need any. So this is 3/8, so we'll just drill him through, we'll run a reamer through, and we'll call this setup done. And we can see there that that's come through almost exactly on our crosshairs where we had it marked. So, well, it is exactly. So I'm pretty pleased with that. I'm going to drill him right through. So last job's just to run a 3/8 reamer through that. It's fairly straightforward. Now, a keen follower of MYFORDBOY'S videos will probably notice that he's made a handmade or a homemade D-bit style reamer to ream this hole. Now, he hasn't really said why, and it's not immediately apparent, rather than before I made this part or drilled this hole, I thought it was just to show you how to make a reamer, which is pretty cool. But there's a reason he's done it, and the reason is if we have a look, this ream is not really long enough to cut all the way through, and the standard reamer isn't, so that's why he's made one, and it's not a bad idea, and if I did it again that's probably what I'd do. But that's cleaned up nice, it's nice and parallel through there, and everything looks really good. So the only part to do on this casting now, we've got these drilled and counterbored, is to machine this down flat. How do we do that? Probably I'm going to bolt this down the same similar sort of way, just on the top slide, and mill this. That's probably the easiest and best way. I can't think of a way of doing it with this angle plate already set up. So let's take the angle plate off and we'll bolt him down and see how it looks and go from there. So looking right down on the top of the cross slide, this is what I've done. It's dodgy as dodgy as can be, but it does the job. We found a 1/4 inch, a 6mm hole here that had been tapped at some point, and that just had a grub screw in it, which is convenient to bolt this one down. I've just bolted this one back on the tool post bolt, and I've set this up nice and square with the front edge here. Everything looks really good. The only real issue is that the line that I had scribed is actually on this side, so I've got to either get a mirror or I've got to have a look underneath. And we're nearly down there. Let's just fly cutting that. And it's cutting fairly nicely. This is good aluminium. So this is not recommended practice for any lathe, but hey, it gets the job done, and this casting is just a fraction big for this lathe perhaps. The engine was designed with a milling machine in mind, so this is what we're doing. Probably I could have set this up on a faceplate, but the faceplate I have, or the lathe isn't big enough to swing it. So probably we could set it up in the centre of its faceplate and face this as it went past, and that'd work too. It might be a good way to do it, but this is nice and solid. It's all clamped down nice, nothing's moved, and it's coming down to size. So one more cut. And there's no interference there anywhere, I don't think there's going to be, so we're also running that a little bit faster than we were last time, which might just be the thing. We can now, I think, measure this here to here, which will give us the exact measurement. So the measurement we want is 1 inch 855 thousandths of an inch, and we're sitting there at 75, about 91. So we still need about 0.8 of a millimetre off there. So that's exactly down there to 1 inch 855 thou, which is great. It's all nice and square, everything looks pretty sweet. I think we're going to call that cut done. So anyway, back over at the surface plate, and we set up a DTI here. And just check that. There's no movement at all with that, which I'm pretty pleased about. It's pretty sweet that way, and to be honest, the other way doesn't really matter, but there's a little bit of backlash in our assembly, but it's probably less than 1 thou the other way as well. So I'm pretty pleased about that. So that's starting to look pretty good. We've got this surface machined, and we've got this surface machined parallel, and we've got a hole bored in here nice and perpendicular to the parallel to both faces. We've got 2 holes here for the mount hold down bolts. They're spot faced nicely, and all look pretty good. And that's it for the end of part 2. Thanks for watching, guys, and be kind to each other, and don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't already, and more soon.